Hello everyone, and welcome to this introduction to engaging with your local politicians session. We're from Hope for the Future, a charity based in Sheffield that helps people speak to their politicians to push for action on climate change and nature issues. In this video, we're going to look at the different politicians you can speak to about nature, climate change, or anything else you're passionate about. We're also going to talk about how you can research your local politician and use your new knowledge to get them to listen to you and hear your ideas. But first of all, why contact your politicians in the first place? Politicians, no matter the type, are there to represent the people who elected them. So it's up to us to speak to them and tell them what we think should happen in our local areas. This is how, at its best, our democracy works. And if we want to tackle climate change, reduce waste, and help nature, we need people like you to speak with their politicians and tell them what kind of world you want to live in. We know from our work that engaging with your politicians can make a massive difference. We've seen again and again that when people reach out to their politicians constructively, they can get them on board and create change on climate and nature issues. If you need any extra motivation, it's worth remembering that someone you disagree with might also be speaking to your politicians. So you need to make sure you speak out so your politician hears your point of view as well.
So, what type of politician is best to contact? But politicians aren't all the same. You need to know what type of politician is best for you to contact about the issues you care about. Firstly, Members of Parliament. Members of Parliament, or MPs as they're often called, are elected by the British people roughly every 5 years. MPs are voted in by a constituency to represent that area in Parliament. MPs vote on laws that normally affect the whole country. They set overall climate and environmental targets and pass laws that regulate pollution, amongst many other things. We all have a local MP, and we'll tell you how to check who it is later. Your MP can help with all sorts of issues, but is often the best person to go to if you want to speak about UK-wide issues or a local issue that has a solution that needs to be voted on in Parliament. They also can have a bigger media profile, which can be useful if you want their help to shine some media attention on a particular issue. Parliament's current makeup. The Labour Party won the elections last year, which means that they are now the party in power and Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister. 335 new MPs were elected in the 2024 election, meaning that there are a huge amount of new MPs in Parliament, mostly from Labour and the Liberal Democrats. These MPs will still be getting used to their new jobs, figuring out what they want to focus on and what type of MPs they want to be. This makes it important that we reach out to them early on so that we can help shape what they prioritise as politicians. This is also the most diverse Parliament ever. There are more people who went to state schools, more women, more LGBTQ people, and more ethnic minority MPs than ever before. Parliament and waste. Parliament can do lots of important things to tackle waste, reduce consumption, and promote recycling where possible. For instance, the government comes up with nationwide plans, such as the Waste Management Plan for England. It can also pass laws that regulate a particular industry to help deal with waste, such as the Water Special Measures Bill that's in Parliament at the moment. The government can also launch investigations and reviews into particular waste-related issues. At the moment, they are reviewing how water companies operate because of the extreme poop they've been releasing into rivers and the sea. After a review like this, the government can then decide whether to pass laws that would try and limit pollution or even fine or imprison those in charge of polluting industries. Parliament is also important because it passes laws that relate to climate change, carbon emissions, and energy use. Waste is closely related to climate because of the carbon and energy cost of dealing with waste and of continually producing new things. Devolved nations. It's worth noting that the UK Parliament isn't the only Parliament in the UK. The devolved nations, by which we mean Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, each have their own equivalent of a parliament. The Scottish Parliament in Scotland, the Welsh Senate, and the Northern Irish Assembly. These all have unique powers over a range of issues such as education, healthcare, and planning.
Councils deal with the nuts and bolts of making sure everything works in a particular area. This includes schools, roads, and waste management. Councils are on the front line of dealing with waste in the UK. This means they do the practical work to collect bins, recycle what they can, and burn, bury, or dispose of the remaining waste. They often develop local strategies and plans on things like recycling that look at the specific local detail and try to keep within tight council budgets. They also normally own buildings and land and are responsible for reducing waste and carbon emissions for these. Councils can also run local information and education campaigns that try to change behaviours, for instance to get people to recycle more. At a council level, the politicians we engage with are called councillors. Like MPs, councillors are elected by a particular area. Being a councillor is a really vital job, as they vote on issues important relating to their council area and representing the concerns of their constituents at a council level. Councillors are great people to speak to. They normally know a lot about local issues and, like MPs, are there to represent the people in their area. However, unlike MPs, being a councillor is a part-time job, even though they have a huge amount to do, so bear in mind when connecting with them that they might take a while to get back to you.
Metro mayors, combined authorities and waste. Liverpool City Council and the other councils in the area are part of the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority. There are also other combined authorities across the country, such as the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. Combined authorities are led by a nominated mayor. For Liverpool, this is currently Steve Rotherham. For Manchester, Andy Burnham. They are known as a combined authority mayor or a metro mayor. These mayors are voted for by people in the area they represent and are important political figures. Representatives from the councils in the Liverpool City Region area also represent their areas in the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority Cabinet. The mayors and the combined authority coordinate plans for the region, including on waste and recycling, and can set overall strategy. Metro mayors are also important when it comes to wider environment and climate policy. The Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, for example, also has a 5-year climate action plan, looking at energy efficiency, green homes, and green energy. A lot of the power of metro mayors also comes from their big media profile. The media and other politicians take notice of what they have to say because they've been elected by such a big region. This means that getting them on side or getting them to support an idea you believe in can have a massive impact.
So, just to quickly recap. So members of Parliament, they make the big decisions for the country, and they also vote on nationwide environmental and climate policy. Councils are in charge of bins and household recycling, and local recycling centres and landfill sites. They also lead on local education and information campaigns. Metro mayors and combined authorities, they coordinate local plans and strategy and are high-profile local politicians who can focus media and political attentions on an issue. All of these people have one thing in common. If you live in their constituency, they are there to represent you. Politicians are also always keen to show that they are engaging with their community, particularly with schools and young people. Have a think about which of them sounds like the most useful politician for you to contact, particularly thinking about the issue that you want to cause change on. You could reach out to them specifically, or you could reach out to them all with different requests related to what they control. 3D politicians. So we've talked about the type of politicians you can engage with, but if we want to influence a politician, it's important that we think about them as not just types, but individuals. At Hope for the Future, we often talk about politicians as 3D. By this we mean that they are all individuals with their own interests, their own story, backgrounds and passions. The things that make them not just a politician, but a fully rounded 3D human being. They might have a passion for a particular issue that got them into politics, or even just a favourite football team, or a love of pets, or fitness, or any number of other things. Sometimes, when we think of politicians, it's easy to just think of a faceless person in a suit who works far away in Westminster. Thinking this way can lead us to make assumptions about politicians and automatically assume that they're not on our side. If we think like this, then often we are more hostile when meeting politicians, which makes it much harder to create a good working relationship with them and to convince them to take action on the issues we care about. Instead, it's useful to think about them as a normal, fully rounded human being that we can talk to and connect with like we would anyone else. Which brings us on to common ground. We recommend learning a bit about your local politician so you can find some things in common and use that to get your interactions with them off to a good start. We often talk about this as establishing common ground. Have a think about your interests and then your politician's interest and background, and then see if there are any areas where these overlap. This could be maybe that you know the politician has worked on some things that you really agree with before. Maybe a recycling project, wind farms, or more low traffic neighbourhoods. Or it could be something more personal, like the fact that they come from places you, went to the same school, have a shared hobby, or even a love of animals. If you're struggling to think of any common ground with your politician, having a think about the big issues affecting your community is a good place to start. Because it's the politician's job to represent your area, and because they'll need to get people's votes in the next election, they need to take an interest in the big local issues. If there's something going on locally that you care about, chances are your politician will too.
Research. Mentioning a shared interest can help get things off on the right foot and make clear to them that you want to speak to them constructively and not just criticise them or shout at them. But to do this effectively, we need to do a bit of research. We don't mean you need to spend hours in the library, unless you want to. Libraries are great, but doing some quick Googling can help you find key info about your politician. Here are some key questions you can look up that will give you an insight into what your politician thinks and help you think about how you can get them to listen to you. Some good ones are: what did they do before politics? What do they enjoy doing in their spare time? And what are the major issues that they are campaigning on or have campaigned on before? It can be hard to know where to start, so here are some suggestions from us. Firstly, if you want to check who your local MP is, then check out theyworkforyou.com. Here you can put in your postcode and it will tell you your MP's name. If you want to go into the detail, the site can also show you their voting record and has links to their social media accounts, which can also be useful to look at to see what they are up to at the moment in a more personal way. Wikipedia can be a great place to get an overview, but can sometimes be unreliable, so make sure you double check any info there that you're going to rely on, particularly if it seems shocking or surprising. For councils, local press can be a really good source of information. They normally cover things like what a politician has campaigned on in the run-up to an election, or any key issues they're working on in the local area. There's an amazing website called councilclimatescorecards.uk that gives lots of detail about how different councils are doing on climate and environmental issues, and you can compare your council to others. However, the website is on the complicated side, so we'd recommend this for older students or for looking at with the help of a teacher.
Co-benefits. Once you've researched a bit about your politician, it's worth having a think about the issue you're interested in and then considering how you can talk about it in a way that's most likely to get your politician interested too. A useful way to do this is to think about the co-benefits. Co-benefits are the wider positives about your campaign idea. For example, would it benefit the local economy? i.e., would it save people money or create jobs? Would it make people healthier or happier? Would there be any benefits for the community as a whole? And would it benefit future generations? If we look at the practical example of reducing waste and litter in your area, here's an idea of what these co-benefits might be. Reducing waste would save the council money, as they wouldn't need to process as much rubbish. There would also be benefits from a health perspective, because less waste would be burnt and the air quality would therefore be improved. There would also be benefits for the community, as less overflowing bins and rubbish on the streets means the area would be a more pleasant place to live. And there will be benefits for future generations, as we'd have reduced the carbon emissions from processing waste and from making less things in the first place if consumption goes down. Talking about the co-benefits of your campaign idea is a useful way to get politicians to take notice of your ideas and to get them on board. When you're researching your politician, be on the lookout for areas they are particularly passionate about. If, for instance, they're always talking about how important creating jobs in the local area is, then make sure to mention how your idea will benefit job creation. Likewise, if health and the NHS is important to them, then highlight how your idea can help people to stay healthy. But vitally, even if you're thinking about co-benefits, don't change from what you're passionate about. Just tweak the way you're talking about it to help your politician become passionate about it too and be able to engage.
So, to sum up, we looked at Parliament, local councils and metro mayors and their different roles and responsibilities. We also talked about why it's useful to think of politicians as 3D complex people that we can engage with positively. We then discussed research and how you can use it to help you find the common ground with your politicians. Finally, we showed how you can use a co-benefits approach to get your politicians on board. You're now ready to take your new knowledge and use it to reach out to your politicians. We hope you enjoy the process.